Today I'd like to talk briefly about religion, and first I'll start with the standard definition of religion. So the definition of religion is the belief in and worship of a supernatural controlling power, especially a personal god or gods. So let me say that again. The definition of religion is the belief in and worship of a superhuman controlling power, especially a personal god or gods. So we need to just establish the definition of religion before we move on so that we know that we're talking about the same thing. So this is the standard definition that I'm going by when I'm going to address my religious discussion in this video. It also says a particular system of faith and worship, and that word system is pretty important because most religions are based on a certain system and they're founded by a certain founder. So let me get right into my discussion on religion. So as a yoga teacher who focuses on the religiosity of yoga, I often find myself in discussions about religion with students and people in general. And one of the New Age ideals is, one of the New Age thoughts is, and I used to think this way too, because I used to be very New Agey, is that all the religions are basically the same, and the founders of the religions are also basically the same and promoted the same concepts. Now, on a very fundamental level, we can see consistencies, but that's only natural because we're talking about a system of ideals. A religion is a system of ideals, and so that's going to call for higher behavior. So we're going to see some consistencies in religion because of the demand for higher behavior. So that's one level of understanding religions as being related. But in other ways, the religions really aren't related, and they are worth studying on their own. Each religion sort of stands on its own, and each founder of each religion also is worthy of research and study and contemplation. So here I have the 5 major religions in this world that are the most influential in this world to discuss today. Now, I'm very well aware that there are a myriad of ancient religions and practices that remain with us today and that have gone by the wayside. Many religions have come and gone in this creation. But today I'm going to talk about these main 5 because these are the main 5 that people kind of lump in together as being the same. But they're very distinct. So let's start with the oldest of the old religions in our known history, which is Hinduism. So this religion is primarily, the main deity in Hinduism is Lord Krishna. The main scriptural text for Lord Krishna that represents Lord Krishna and his requirements of us is the Bhagavad Gita. Now, in the Bhagavad Gita, and in other scriptures about Krishna, he declares that he is the supreme God. He's the supreme God of all of the gods, and all of the gods actually live within him. He is the supreme personality of Godhead. He says this in no uncertain terms, multiple times in multiple texts. Okay? Now, Buddhism, the next of the oldest religions. Buddhism would be founded by Buddha, except he didn't really mean to found Buddhism, but he is the source of Buddhism. The scriptural text that is the standard accepted source text, primary text for Buddhism is the Pali Canon. Buddha did not ever declare himself to be God or a god. He declared himself to be an enlightened being. In fact, he declared himself to be the only enlightened being on earth and didn't want to bother teaching his way, but the god Brahma actually convinced him to do so and said that there were a few people that were worthy of his teachings on this planet. But Buddha never declared himself to be a god. Okay, so then we have the Abrahamic religions, starting with Judaism, and their god is called Yahweh. The scriptural text is the Torah and very importantly the Talmud. You have to read the Talmud to understand Judaism. this is another God, Yahweh, that said that he is God. Next we have Jesus Christ, Christianity. Primary text is the Bible. Jesus declared himself the Son of God. He never actually said that he was God. If you can find a passage from the Bible where Jesus says that I am God, then please show me. And then we have Muhammad, the prophet of Islam, primary text, the Quran, and he declared himself to be a messenger of God. So, I don't know that much about the Quran. It's been a really long time since I read it. Literally, it was like 20 years ago when I went through the Quran, so I don't remember a lot of it. It's a nice text. I mean, parts of it are nice, parts of it are not so nice, just like with the Bible. Just like because they all share the Old Testament. These three all share the Old Testament, so there's a lot of that, Old Testament energy in all of these religions. And I don't know that much about Islam. I know quite a bit about, Jesus and the Bible, and some about Yahweh and Judaism. But all of these religions are different. The one thing that everybody says is the thread between them is that they all call for us to be kind to each other. And this is true to some extent, although I'm not sure that Buddha necessarily said this. I have to check and see if Buddha ever said anything to the effect of treat your neighbor as yourself kind of thing. We know that Yahweh and that Jesus and that Muhammad, because we share the same God, Yahweh, with Islam and to some extent with Christianity, except that Christians believe that Jesus Christ is God and Yahweh at the same time. These two don't believe that. Of course, these two don't believe any of it. But the similarity would be with Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita is when Krishna says that we should be friendly to all the beings. Friendly to all the beings. But you have to understand that when you're studying Lord Krishna, this is the highest, most complicated, most complex, most advanced God. It's just undeniable when you read these scriptures. And while at once he's saying to be friendly to all the beings, in this particular case in the Bhagavad Gita and the Mahabharata, from which the Bhagavad Gita comes, this story ends in a huge, epic, bloody battle where thousands and thousands and thousands of people were just slaughtered. But at the same time, Lord Krishna is doing this, he's participating in this with a friendly attitude. And he wants Arjuna to do the same. He wants him to be lighthearted and detached from the fact that all of these bodies are going to be killed, because he said they're just bodies. You can't ever actually kill the spirit, the Atma. So at once, Lord Krishna can kill, but also love and be friendly. So he's a little bit more complicated, more paradoxical. Buddha is very straightforward in the text. If you read the Pali Canon, it's just absolutely straightforward. It's incredibly intricate and detailed, to the point where sometimes you just have to put it down. But Buddha detailed everything that he thought about, life and suffering and detachment in the meditation practices that he did. Now, we all know the Old Testament is a strange text. And it's very different than these two Eastern religions that I cited. So my point is that it's nice to try to join and link these religions and to find the commonalities between. But at the same time, we also have to respect the fact that these are independent manifestations of individuals' relationships with the divine and individual relationships with the creation and with themselves, especially with Buddha, his individual relationship with himself and with what he considered his, the sufferings, and everything was suffering to him. All the activities, everything that he did was a sufferation, and how we eliminate that suffering to find liberation. Liberation to basically, it wasn't really cited too much, but kind of a nothingness, sort of a void, nirvana they call it. Lord Krishna's liberation is to his supreme heavenly abode. And we know where the liberation for the Islam men is. We all hear about that. We know that the liberation, being a successful Christian, will get you into heaven, some heavenly world that they're talking about. And the same with Judaism. So that's it. That's my talk on religion. I just wanted to cite these differences because I think that it's a good idea to study religions independently, let them stand on their own, get to know each of them independently, and then if you see a common, after you know the text, after you can really have an intellectual discussion about the text itself, the history of the religion itself, then we can start to find some commonalities. It's good to know our differences. Sometimes when we know our differences, it's clearer to truly see what our real commonalities are, not superficial commonalities. Any questions? Let me know.